listen. Every week, we spend about a minute, just 1 minute, in silent meditation. It's a ritual that this congregation has observed long before I arrived here. It's part of a long-established meditation sequence, including a reading, the song Spirit of Life, and silence before a musical interlude. And I've heard various feedback over the years about that 1 minute of silence. Everything from, what a waste of time, it's nothing but dead air, get on with it, to, I wish the whole service was that way. That would save me some time. So I'm curious, what happens in that minute of silence for you on a typical Sunday? What do you hear? What do you do? How do you spend that time? And what does it mean? The invitation of that moment of silence is meant to be open-ended. It is, as you've heard, for some, a moment of silent meditation, of clearing the mind of distractions. It could be an opportunity to soak up and listen to those ambient sounds around you, the babies scuffling or fussing, the heater clanging, passing traffic, the busy chatter of the children downstairs gathering for their weekly celebration. It's a time, I hope, not just to hear these things, but as Jack said so beautifully, to listen to them. The silence can also be used to hear your own heartbeat, to feel for a moment that rushing of blood, the dissolving of breath into being. Perhaps it's just a moment of respect. And the silence can be an invitation to think lovingly and affirmingly about those things you most dearly hope for. Dare I say, it can be a time of silent prayer, a prayer of giving and of receiving. Like many Unitarian Universalists, prayer is not my first language. It does not come naturally to me even 7 years in. It's not the language and logic of prayer. It's because the language and logic of prayer, as I've heard it, has often felt foreign or forced. And at too many public events I've attended, the terms set out in a traditional prayer, clumsily managed, often manage to exclude my understanding of the world and the working of its words. But I have not yet found a more satisfying way to say to someone, I am listening deeply to your needs, and I am wishing with all of my heart and my soul and my might that the desires of your soul be met with grace and abundance, and I commit to help in any way I can. You see, that's a lot of words to use, when what most people could offer is simply, I will pray. Many humanists, many Unitarian Universalists do not then practice prayer, do not use the word in any case, and may even bristle at the mention of prayer. Because there is this assumption that to pray necessarily means there is an external receiver, and potential grantor of your petition. But for me, in reclaiming the use of the word prayer, I do not pray to anything. I do not pray to anyone. Instead, I pray to connect. My colleague Bill Schultz writes, "It is not a distant, mysterious God to whom we make appeal, or even the cold vagaries of progress, evolution, creativity, or history. The gods and goddesses, or if you prefer, the most precious and profound, are accessible to us in the taste of honey and the touch of stone. And this, in turn, is why we love the earth, honor the human body, and bless the stars. Religion is not just a matter of things unseen. For us, the holy is not hidden, but shows its face in the blush of the world's exuberance." Buddhist teacher Thich Nhat Hanh says that when Buddhists pray, they are praying both to themselves and to what is outside themselves, that there is not a distinction between the prayer and the prayee. They are of the same substance. He says that when we practice mindful meditation and spend our energy to someone who is in need, that transmission of energy is a form of prayer. Prayer for me has always been private and silent until I became a minister. Even St. Francis of Assisi said, "Pray without ceasing. If necessary, use words." So because for me, prayer is more about listening, when I'm asked to do so aloud, I confess I panic. Words, normally my friendly companions, fail me when I'm asked at a gathering, a dinner table, or a hospital bed to pray. The words that stumble along seem inadequate and bumbling, and the best I can do in its practice is to understand this to be a useful humbling. I go tongue-tied, aware that there are often narrow expectations among some about what a proper prayer is, and my definition of prayer is so much broader than that, and oh, so much more silent. Maybe prayer is nothing more than a reassurance that we are listening, that prayer is to consent to listen to that still small voice inside, that whisper of wisdom, of inner intuition. To stop the noise and confusion, all those stories in the head of our conflicting messages between want and need. Instead of grasping for the next solution, a moment of silent listening invites me about pausing to pay attention. And isn't it the heart of our soul's desire to be truly listened to? face it, if someone asks you to pray, it doesn't go over very well to say, shh. Listen. So what would a spoken prayer look like among Unitarian Universalists? You know there's one pasted in the back of your hymnals. You may have forgotten it's there. You may not have even known it was there. Take a look. Will you read it with me? Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea. Move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me. It is a prayer. It's been in the liturgy at this congregation for many more years than I've been here. And I've tried to remove it from the liturgy at my great peril. I hear from you when that happens. But there are many more less traditional prayers here. There's a weekly prayer you may have witnessed, if not really heard. Before each service, you may have watched me walk through the sanctuary. I touched the pews, the pulpit, and the piano, uttering my own prayer of attention and intention. What I'm saying, muttering under my breath is, may all assembled here hear something useful and timely. It reassures me that the Sunday service is bigger than anything I have managed to attempt to plan. I've called this weekly prayer a blessing of the space, but it's really a reminder to myself, a reminder of gratitude, a reminder of presence, a reminder of responsibility. It is an act of love. The Dalai Lama says, I think prayer is, for the most part, a simple daily reminder of your deeply held principles and convictions. I myself repeat certain Buddhist verses every morning. The verses may look like prayers, but they are actually reminders. Reminders of how to speak to others, how to deal with other people, how to deal with problems in your daily life. Things like that. There are other things here that others might call a prayer. There's an affirmation, which is a form of prayer. Love is the doctrine of this church. Truth is its sacrament. And look, it's right there. Service is its prayer. We don't kneel, and we don't all bow our heads or fold our hands, but we do raise them as a bridge. And we sing the children out with a blessing. We light candles and we cry. We pause for that silent meditation. We play music. We play with words. We laugh. We pass an offering plate, sharing our gifts with one another. We hold hands. We dance and sway as we sing our parting blessing. Carry the flame of peace and love until we meet again. As Rumi says, there are 1,000 ways to kneel and kiss the ground. There are 1,000 ways also to listen to that soul's desire. Alain René Bozart writes, make of your life an offering, make of your life a prayer. Be awake to the life that is loving you and sing your prayer. Laugh your prayer, dance your prayer, run and weep and sweat your prayer. Sleep your prayer, eat your prayer, paint, sculpt, hammer, and read your prayer. Sweep, dig, rake, and dive and hoe your prayer. Garden, farm, and build and clean your prayer. Walk shout your prayer. Groan, moan, and spit and sneeze your prayer. Swim and hunt and cook your prayer. Digest and become your prayer. Release and recover your prayer. Breathe your prayer. Be your prayer. Will you rise and body your spirit to sing Alicia Carpenter's prayer, number 6. Unitarian Universalist chaplain Kate Graystrip says there are really only 3 prayers. Yes, wow, and thank you. Yes invites us into the present moment. It is an affirmation that we are listening. It is an affirmation we might be heard. It accepts this present moment. Wow invites us to contemplate the implications of the tiny part we play in a vast, interconnected web of being. And we celebrate the beauty of that complexity. Thank you invites us to bless one another and be grateful for our resilience, to appreciate the abundance and potential of the world. The journey, though, between yes and thank you can be long and hard. And so in between, we do need reminders, support, mindfulness. Unitarian minister and mystic Jacob Trapp wrote, "There are perhaps very few human beings who have never prayed spontaneously or involuntarily. In some crisis, where a person near and dear to us lies suffering and we can only stand by helpless, an involuntary prayer, a certain silent intercessory plea, is likely to rise from consciousness from the depths beyond our control. Love wants that a turn for the better shall come, and from its own depths sends that prayer up to the conscious mind of the person who loves. The first human being who ever prayed, some Stone Age or pre-Stone Age ancestor who lifted a face toward the sky and more by gesture than words asked for help for a dying mate or a suffering child, was doing quite the same thing we might be doing in a similar crisis. The heart asks And this, 100,000 years ago or now, is pre-theological. The posture of prayer then has nothing to do with how you fold your hands and whether you sit cross-legged or kneel. It doesn't matter if you cross yourself, bow, or lie on the ground. And it doesn't depend on any theology. We are each part of the world. We are each part of one another. The only necessary posture of prayer is attention. The only necessary theology is humility, that we don't have all the answers. As Unitarian Universalists, even prayer itself is not required, much less are prayers prescribed. But we do join the human family in the necessity to stay poised, to listen, and we are poised in the promise that we may be listened. My colleague, Kate Brystrup, serves as a chaplain for the Maine Warden Service, chiefly accompanying them on search and rescue missions in the Maine woods. Her job requires a spiritual multilingualism, and like many Unitarian Universalists, prayer had not been part of her faith formation. It is easy for her, for me, for most of us, when there is something we can do in the face of trauma, to serve up our prayers in the form of a casserole, company, or caretaking. But faced with grieving families, faced with uncertain outcomes, there are times there is nothing else to offer but a prayer. In the face of global calamities, world away. Sometimes all we can offer is the energy of prayer to sustain ourselves, to sustain those who are able to be there and serve, and to those in the wake of the current trauma. In her book, Beginner's Grace, Reverend Kate writes, "If the practice of prayer, whatever outward form it might take, encourages us to wake up, pay attention, and become more conscious, it should also, by definition, inspire us to compassion, helpfulness, and empathy." She writes, "I can't pretend to be unconditionally in favor of the practice of prayer. No, I've got plenty of conditions. I'll pray only as long as prayer helps me to be more present, more aware, and attentive. And as long as prayer helps me to see the suffering of others. As long as prayer reminds me to deploy both my resources and my generosity, I'll pray. And I will keep on praying so long as prayer serves as a uniquely potent means of giving and receiving love." What is your potent means of giving and receiving love? Perhaps it is the offering of the gift of music. Maybe it's making the coffee, teaching the children, welcoming someone you have not yet met. Maybe it is being here and letting your battery be charged again so you have the energy to face the challenges of your week in the work and volunteer efforts in your wider community. Like our moment of silent meditation, the answers differ among us. Whatever your soul's desire, take a moment to listen to that still small voice within. Listen to your heartbeat drum with the rhythm of love. Annie Forrester writes, "Let us create a prayer together. At the center of the gathered community dwells the holy. We are the prayer, each and all. One by one we come to this place, whole and broken, commencing and concluding, laughing and weeping, and soul by soul the prayer begins. Spirit of life and love. Two by two we greet one another, smiling, nodding, speaking, embracing. And in relationship, the prayer continues. Spirit of life and love, where we meet is a sacred space. Moment by moment, the circle builds, pulsing like 100 heartbeats. We fill the circle with our breath. We inspire. The circle fills us with wealth. We are inspirited. The prayer rises on our very breathing together. Spirit of life and love, where we meet is a sacred space, and we are inspired by one another's presence. The circle will not, cannot go on forever, and yet this circle will never die. What each of us finds here is what we are not. It makes us whole. It gives us strength to go out in the world beyond this holy community, beyond this sacred space, to begin yet another prayer. And so we pray. Spirit of life and love, where we meet is a sacred space, and we are inspired by one another's presence. At the center of the gathered community dwells the holy.